Donald Trump and I have both said Captain Khan is an American hero. His family, like every Gold Star family, should be cherished by every American, and we've continued to do so.
Republican GOP, well, that's a redundancy, isn't it? That's the GOP vice presidential nominee, my old congressional colleague Mike Pence, now the governor of Indiana, still attempting to put to rest continued criticism over Donald Trump's statements concerning the Khan family, that Gold Star family. But as the leftist media continues to push this controversy, Khan is now saying Allah is responsible for Donald Trump's mistakes. In an interview with a Pakistani news outlet, Khan said, quote, Allah makes people like Trump make mistakes to discredit them in the public eye. For more on this controversy, let's welcome in former Army intelligence officer Ray Starmann. He's the founder of U.S. Defense Watch, and he joins us this evening from Los Angeles. Now, Ray, you came to public notice with an internet column in first blush, if you will, after the whole controversy came up between Trump and Khan. But your reaction to Khan going on Pakistani television saying this is the will of Allah?
Well, I think and by the way, thanks for having me here tonight, JD. I think it definitely shows that Mr. Khan wasn't exactly the way that he was painted finally by the DNC when he spoke on Thursday night at the last night of the convention. I think, you know, some of these ties that he's had to the Muslim Brotherhood and his support of Sharia law, and now the statement that Allah was responsible for some of Trump's blunders and there. And I think Mr. Khan might find out in November that Allah might be very well responsible for Mr. Trump winning the election, too.
Ray, I've got to tell you, a lot of people started to take a look at Mr. Khan as an attorney. And of course, we saw him at the Democrat convention hold up that pocket copy of the Constitution that I always kept during my days in Congress to make sure everything was going right. But his writings, as you touched on briefly, he has legal writings where he subordinates himself to Sharia law. He cites very controversial, quote, Muslim Sharia scholars. If that's the case, in fact, isn't the entire premise, again, apart from his son's sacrifice, isn't the premise about the Constitution a huge lie from him?
Well, exactly, and I think it's like this is what you said, that you know, we all know Captain Khan was a hero, but we have to separate that from the actions of his father. And he pulls out this pocket Constitution, which to me, you know, looked like a prop there when he spoke, and it's become more of a prop as as some of this information has come out. But I think that you know, his ties to Sharia law, it sort of fits into what I was you know, saying in the article, that you know, there's been these various polls taken by different news outlets that you know, half of the Muslims in America support Sharia law and would rather follow Sharia law. They want that as the law of the land instead of the U.S. Constitution. And I think, you know, that is just obviously to a majority of Americans, that's absolutely unacceptable. And the other thing that I pointed out in the article too is that Mr. Khan seemed to have blamed Donald Trump for it. If Donald Trump was president, Mr. Khan and his family would never have been in the United States. Well, maybe or maybe not, but it's not the job of people from foreign countries to determine who comes into the country. It's the job of the United States government to determine.
That is a point well taken, Ray. Tell you what, let's go to the phones at 1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-639-7629, and let's go to America's heartland, to the sunflower state of Kansas, Topeka, to be specific. And Richard's on the line. Hi, Richard.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, sir.
Good. I guess from my standpoint, the one thing, realizing that Donald's new at this game of politics, he's going to have to start recognizing when they've set these traps for him and be able to avoid them and you know, anticipate some of these and avoid them and let his team do the fighting for him. And he'd have been what I want to say, positioned if he would have expressed his sorrow at their loss and left it alone and gone on.
Yep, you know, there's some cases where that's very true. And a little later, Mike Flanagan is coming back since we're a couple old congressmen talking about the traps that the Democrats try to set for you on the campaign trail and paying attention to fundamentals. Richard, I think your point is well taken, and obviously, Ray, we have seen this balloon, given the agenda-setting priorities of the dominant media culture in this country. We've seen how they've tried to stretch this out. But there is another controversy, little noticed. President Obama turned 55 yesterday, and of course, for his birthday, it now appears that his goal of bringing in 10,000 Syrian refugees will be fulfilled by September. In fact, at today's pace, more than 1,200 of these refugees could be here by September 30th. Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry, that the scary thing is that just like in Europe, especially in Germany, these people are, no matter what the government says, they're undocumented, they're unvetted. We don't know who they are. And I think it's just, and then the other thing is that Hillary Clinton wants to actually increase the number of refugees, even the top, what Trump is doing. I think, by a couple 100%, she wants to, add on to the number. And it's just frightening. I mean, I don't know what kind of reality they're living in or unreality, but all you have to do is look at what's going on in Europe, and you realize that it's a disaster waiting to happen.
And as you mentioned that, just one friendly amendment. You said Trump, I think you meant Obama. We understand the sentiment reflected there, and goodness knows sometimes I misidentify folks, so I know you'll accept that friendly amendment. But bearing out what you were saying, Ray, about what's gone on in Western Europe, FBI Director Jim Comey offered the following observation. Let's watch and listen.
Not all of the Islamic State's killers are going to die on the battlefield. Hundreds and hundreds of them, when the coalition succeeds, and I'm confident it will, in crushing the Islamic State, through the fingers of that crush are going to come hundreds of really dangerous people, and they're going to flow out primarily towards Western Europe, but we might as well be right next door to Western Europe, given the ease with which people can travel. And this is an order of magnitude greater than any diaspora we've seen before.
All right, so there's Jim Comey. And he's got a little different take on military success, because I don't see our current commander-in-chief really moving aggressively against ISIS, given the nature of the airstrikes we've had and the drones, kind of the pinprick approach. Yet, what he tells us, the warning about the diaspora of these folks, and what you mentioned in Western Europe, it is set up as a recipe for disaster, or at the very least, high risk here in the United States. And Ray, isn't it time to put a halt to accepting any of these Syrian refugees just as a principle of our own national security?
I think absolutely. I think they have to, Mr. Trump's plan to shut down immigration for people from certain countries that harbor and support terrorism is completely pragmatic. And that's what Mr. Khan, when he was speaking at the DNC, like I said in the article, foreigners have no right to dictate our policy. We have to protect our own country. Our own country is the #1 priority, and it's like you said before. It is a pinprick war that President Obama is waging. Yesterday in the press conference, he said that we had conducted 100,000 sorties against ISIS in the last 2 years, and that's simply not true. We've actually only conducted 14,000. A sortie is one plane on one mission. What would be about 20 a day, and many of those, as you well know, JD, are called back because of the White House's.
This is what happens. This is what happens, Ray, when a community organizer, really a street agitator from the left, becomes commander-in-chief. Look, let's take another call. About a minute 15 remains before we have to say goodbye. Back to the phones to Cleveland, Tennessee. Here's David. Hiya, David.
Well, good evening, JD. How are you?
Doing fine, sir. What's on your mind tonight?
I just wanted to call and just put a plug in for, I went to see the movie Hillary's America the other evening, and I just wanted to put a plug in for all of the diehard Democrats that they really need to go see this movie.
All right.
I don't know if it will help them at all, but in lieu of everything else that's been going on, but I really need them to go see this movie. fact, anybody and everybody needs to go see it.
All right,
Quite
David.
an
Well, we
eye-opener.
appreciate that. With the weekend upon us, we appreciate your film review there in Cleveland, Tennessee. Ray, 30 seconds. Some people have tried to tell us Hillary would be a more responsible commander-in-chief than Barack Obama. 20 seconds. Do you think that's true?
Well, all you have to do is look at her record as Secretary of State and what's going on right now in Libya, which should be called Operation Fix Hillary's Mess. Colonel Gaddafi, obviously the bad guy in the 80s, was coming over to our side slowly. And we deposed him because President Obama, as a left-wing ideologue, always wants to cause a revolution somewhere, as he did backing the...
We hear you, Ray, and unfortunately our time is up. Come back and visit with us again. Ray
Thanks,
Starmann
JD.
tonight from Los Angeles. When we come back, Donald Trump is making news. We'll share some of it with you next.